The Sheikh's Accidental Pregnancy, the Botros Brothers Series Book 1, written by Leslie North, narrated by Tanya Stevens. Chapter 1. Sarah arrived for her interview at the Botros Oil Company a few minutes early. When she applied for the job, she never thought she'd get it. She was fresh out of university with not much work experience, and the Botros Oil Company was one of the best in the Middle East. Sarah played with her fingers as she waited for her interview. She felt so nervous. The job was a big deal for a 23-year-old fresh out of engineering school. She pulled out her phone and quickly went online to read about Sheikh Amir one more time. She had to know about the man she was going to work for. At 28, he was the youngest VP at the family-run business and one of the country's most eligible bachelors. "Miss Matthews," the receptionist called out and smiled. "Sheikh Amir will see you now," she added, and held the door open for Sarah. Sarah stood up, straightening her skirt, and walked into the office. Amir was sitting at his desk. Sarah immediately stretched out her hand for him to shake as she approached the table. Amir reached out and shook her hand. "Sarah Matthews." Sarah introduced herself with a smile. "Amir Botros. Please have a seat, Miss Matthews," he said. His voice was calm and soft. Sarah sat down across from him. The office was cool from the air conditioner. It was very tidy and furnished with sophisticated furniture. No doubt it was expensive. It made Sarah question their interest in her even more. Surely a company of such high status would hire an older woman for the position of personal assistant, with maybe 2 degrees and tons of experience. What was she thinking, moving so far from home? Up until a couple weeks ago, she'd never left the United Kingdom. "Great that you could join us today," Amir said. "Thanks for the invitation," Sarah replied. She was sitting upright, even though it was not comfortable. She was too used to leaning back in the chair with her legs apart. Her mother always made a point to remind her of how unladylike it was. "What do you think of the country so far?" Sarah was surprised by such a casual question. She thought about her words before she replied. She always had a tendency to ramble. "It's very hot, but beautiful." She was not sure if she was meant to say more. She decided that it was safer to keep it to a short and simple answer. "Being from London, I am sure that you are not used to the heat out here, but I must comment, your accent is not entirely a British one." Now Sarah was officially confused. They were discussing her accent? What kind of an interview was this? "Yes, I have a South African background," Sarah replied. "That I am aware of." Amir took a sip from a glass of water. "I like the mix. It's rather exotic," he added. "Thank you." This is officially awkward, Sarah thought to herself. "Okay, I can see that I am making you feel uncomfortable." Before Sarah could respond, Amir put his hand up to stop her and smiled. "I liked you on paper. A background check on you was already completed. So, I would like to hire you for a month to see if you can impress me in real life as well." Liked me? Background checks? Sarah was wondering if this was a trick. She stared at him blankly and did not respond. "I am too impulsive, according to my brother." He smirked a little. "But I have no experience yet," Sarah ventured. "That is the beauty of it. I can mold you into what I need exactly. You have the academic credentials. The rest will come. Sarah narrowed her eyes. So I'm hired? Sarah asked. Precisely, Amir said and rose from his desk. I have other matters to attend to, so please show yourself out. You start Monday morning at 8 a.m. sharp, he said as he buttoned his suit jacket. Sarah almost died when he said 8 a.m. It was too early. She couldn't function before 10. Amir handed her 2 thick files. Some light reading for the week, he said, and then walked out. Thank you, she called out after him. She looked down at the thick files. Light reading? Must be his way of being funny. The receptionist reappeared at the door. She had a neat bob. She was tall and dressed smartly. Excuse me, Sarah said to her. You're confused about the files, the woman asked. From Sarah's face, she could tell that she was very confused. Sarah nodded. Sheikh Amir wants you to read about the company and familiarize yourself with past cases. Okay, but how did he hire me so easily? He already knows everything he needs to know about you. That's creepy, Sarah mumbled. Pardon? The woman smiled and leaned closer to Sarah. The background checks? Yes, she nodded. Thank you. Is there anything about the job I need to be aware of? Skirt should be about knee length. Always be on time. Do not wear tops with shoulder pads. Sarah frowned. The sheikh thinks shoulder pads look awful. Make sure you read those files cover to cover. He will probably ask you about something from there. Sarah thanked her before she left. She had never been to an interview at such a large company before, but she was sure things did not go down like that. Either way, she was grateful for the job. It paid really well. She needed money to live, as well as pay off her substantial school loans. As Sarah reached her new apartment, she had a bounce in her step, despite the heavy files she carried. The idea of living in a new country was exciting to her. She fumbled in her handbag for the key, the only handbag she had. Sarah really disliked handbags. She preferred backpacks, but she figured it was not suitable to attend an interview with a backpack. She opened the door and frowned at her still unpacked luggage. Packing and unpacking was always so awful for her. At this moment, it was either unpack or read those ridiculously thick files. She sat on the bed and chose to do neither. She flipped open her laptop and decided to check out her new boss instead. It seemed that his family was more powerful than she had imagined. Sheikh Amir's grandfather was a cousin to the royal family. This made her more curious as to why he hired her. As powerful as he was, he could have had anyone as his new assistant, and he chose her. Monday morning came sooner than Sarah had hoped. She dragged herself out of bed and headed for the shower. Choosing clothes was not easy for her. She had limited experience with office attire and wanted to pick the right outfit to make a good impression. She decided on a blue shirt, a black high-waist skirt, and black high heels. Sarah looked in the mirror and faced the bush of hair on her head. She had long curly hair. Whilst others said it was nice, she found it hard to maintain. Men have it easy, she mumbled to herself. She managed to brush it up and tie it in a high bun. She grabbed her backpack and dashed out of the door. She was going to take her handbag, but she simply couldn't commit to using it every day. You may go straight through, Adiva, the receptionist, said to Sarah when she arrived. Sarah smiled and headed towards Amir's office. She stopped halfway and walked back to Adiva. "Where can I put my bag?" she asked. "I can put it in the staff locker room for you." Adiva took the bag from Sarah. Turning, she grimaced. In her opinion, backpacks were not fashionable or appealing. Sarah walked into the office and greeted her new boss. He greeted her back and asked her to sit down. Immediately, he questioned her about the light reading. Luckily, she had read the files cover to cover as Adiva had advised. Otherwise, this situation would have been incredibly embarrassing for her. Whilst Amir was telling Sarah what he expected of her, she couldn't help but think about the articles she read about him. They described him as a ladies' man. It did not surprise her. He was young, rich, and handsome. Of course he would be a ladies' man, and that characterization came with arrogance and a huge ego. Chapter 2. Sarah's first few weeks flew by. Amir mainly had her doing simple things. He said it was so she could learn how to do things the way he liked them done. She learned that he was a very particular man. He wanted things executed exactly as he commanded. Anything less, and she'd have to do it again. He was nice to her, though. She had really hoped for that. The last thing she wanted was to work for a tyrant. The only negative was how many times she had done something embarrassing in front of him. Even though she was 23, it seemed like she had not learned how to walk properly. Once he had to grab her arm to stop her from falling over. She died inside of embarrassment and thanked him as if nothing had happened. She arrived at the office, bright and early as always. Adiva was cleaning up, even though the place was spotless. Sarah watched Adiva walking up and down, double-checking everything. "Adiva, what's going on?" Sarah asked. "Sheikh Tariq is returning today," Adiva replied frantically. Sarah was standing there confused. Who was Sheikh Tariq and why was she panicking like that? Adiva realized that Sarah was still standing there, not moving or reacting. She stopped walking and looked back at Sarah. "Sheikh Tariq is the chairman and Sheikh Amir's older brother." Adiva answered Sarah's question before she had the opportunity to ask. "Okay, thank you, Adiva, but why does his presence make you nervous? I understand he is the chairman, but—" Before Sarah finished the sentence, Adiva cut her off. "You don't know him. Everything has to be perfect. Trust me, you do not want to be on the wrong side of him," Adiva said and returned to organizing the reception area. Sarah had a bad feeling about meeting this man. She could already see herself getting on his bad side. She shrugged her shoulders and headed for her new office. Amir had told her that once she started her official duties as his personal assistant, she would get her own office. Sarah was excited to have her own office. She looked around as she wondered what to put in it to liven things up a bit. It was partially empty, cold but clean. The office had a desk, 3 chairs, computer, small sofa, and a credenza. She opened the doors to the credenza, and to her surprise, the shelves were full. "You'll need them for future projects," a voice sounded from behind her. She turned around to see Amir leaning on the doorframe. Sarah gave him half a smile. "Will your brother be here soon?" Sarah asked. She wasn't that familiar with him to talk to him that casually, but the words left her mouth faster than she could stop them. She was curious to know what this Tariq was like. "Adiva gave that away," Amir said as he chuckled. "She's frantically cleaning the place. My brother is a difficult man to please. You'll do well to stay on his good side." Sarah frowned. This was the second time she was being warned to stay on his good side. What kind of a monster was he? She was now less than eager to meet him. Amir laughed at Sarah's facial expression. "Just stay out of his way is all the advice I can give you," Amir said to her and walked out. "Sheikh Amir," Sarah called out and ran after him. He stopped and looked at her. "Can I slightly, just a bit, decorate the office?" She felt awkward asking him. She was starting to regret even asking. It was probably not a professional move. "Do what you want with it. It's yours." He smiled at her and walked off. She thanked him, but he carried on walking. Sarah returned to her office. Amir had not given her any work, so she had some time to kill. She decided to rearrange the furniture to suit her taste. Sarah was struggling to push the desk. It was heavier than she anticipated. Doing it in a skirt and high heels was probably not smart either. She turned her head and saw a man looking at her. He was outside her office looking in. His face was expressionless. Sarah immediately felt awkward. He resembled Amir, but he was taller and had a bigger build. Sarah stopped pushing the desk and straightened her skirt. "Who are you?" he asked Sarah. His voice was much deeper than Amir's. While his presence intimidated her, Sarah felt more awkward. She cleared her throat and walked over to the door. "I am Sarah, Sheikh Amir's personal assistant," Sarah said, and put her hand for him to shake it. He did not even acknowledge her hand. "My brother has peculiar taste," he said, and walked off. Sarah was left hanging. She frowned at him. He was very impolite. "Brother?" she whispered quietly. It was Tariq. Her jaw dropped open. The first time he meets her, and it is already a disaster. She shook her head and shut the office door, something she should have done when she decided to rearrange the room. A diva walked in and gave her some work that Amir had requested for her to do. She also provided Sarah with his diary. She had to familiarize herself with his appointments and meetings, since it was going to be her responsibility to handle them. Sarah was sitting at her desk, flipping through Amir's diary and files, trying to understand and possibly memorize them. She did not want to forget anything if he asked her. She had to appear competent in every way possible. "You met my brother," she heard Amir's voice. She looked up and saw him standing in the doorway. Sarah sighed before she replied. Something was telling her that Tariq wasn't so pleased with her already. Amir laughed. Tariq had questioned his choice in hiring her. "She was pushing the desk in a skirt and heels," Tariq had said to Amir. If it were up to Tariq, he would have fired her on the spot for not acting like a lady. "It was not the best of time to meet him," Sarah said. As if there would ever be a more suitable time, she told herself. Sarah was always the clumsy, awkward girl. "Don't worry about it," Amir said as if it was nothing, but he knew his brother would always remember that about her no matter what else she did. Tariq was particular about everything, including women. He preferred women to behave in a traditional and ladylike manner. Sarah having her skirt rising whilst pushing a desk across the room did not spell out lady. Amir changed the subject and started talking about a meeting he needed Sarah to attend with him. There was a large, untouched field that needed to be drilled for oil. The purpose of the meeting was to have a rough estimate of how much the project was going to cost, how many workers needed to be transferred to that field, how many barrels they expected to fill up in a week, and other concerns. It was a simple meeting, but Amir needed Sarah to start with the smaller meetings before she attended ones that are more important. She had graduated top of her class at university. He had requested a copy of her final paper and read it before he interviewed her. He knew she was intelligent and that she would be a great asset to him once she was trained. He was willing to take a chance on her. "Any questions?" he asked after explaining everything to her. She shook her head to say no. "Good," he added. "But I am surprised you're training me yourself. A man of your importance usually has someone else to do that for him," Sarah said. "I want things in a particular way." "Like your brother?" Amir raised his eyebrows. No one had ever compared him to Tariq. Clearly, she did not know them both. "He'd beg to differ if he heard you," Amir said with a mischievous smile. He spun on his heel and headed for the door. Sarah chewed on her pen. She wondered what Tariq was like, but she figured their next meeting was going to be an awkward one as well. She shrugged her shoulders. Chapter 3. Sarah was wearing gray pants and a baby blue long-sleeved shirt, and her hair was tied back in a bun. She was nervous about her first meeting. She wasn't sure what to expect. She greeted Adiva on her way in. Sarah twirled in front of Adiva. "Do I look professional enough for the meeting?" Sarah asked Adiva. "You look fine. Do not be nervous. Everything will be fine," Adiva reassured her. "I hope so." Sarah smiled and walked towards the office. She had managed to come in early. The last thing she wanted was to be late for her first meeting. She went to greet Amir. He was standing with Tariq. "Good morning, sir," Sarah said to Amir. "Morning, Sarah. Ready for the meeting?" he asked her. "I think so." She smiled nervously. She turned her attention to Tariq, who was trying not to acknowledge her. He still had the image of her pushing the desk in her office in his head. She looked so unladylike with her skirt riding up and her bottom curled up as she arched her back. "Good morning, Sheikh Tariq." Sarah greeted him. She knew she had to face him sooner or later, and unfortunately the day came sooner than she wanted. He did not offer a response. Instead, he simply looked down at her. She was much smaller than he was. Sarah looked back at Amir. She was not sure what to do now. Tariq had ignored her, and she was not sure what to do next. Amir gave Tariq a blank stare. His older brother was already giving the little girl a hard time. Amir tapped her on the shoulder and pointed at a seat. "Go sit over there," he told her. She nodded as she moved to her chair. "You could have greeted her back," Amir said to Tariq in Arabic. "She did not bow. Did no one teach her how to greet sheikhs?" Tariq asked. "She is new to the country, brother. All the more reason why she needs to learn our ways. Relax, brother, and give her a chance." Amir patted his brother on the back and then went to sit at the conference table next to Sarah. He rubbed her shoulder to reassure her, as she seemed a bit nervous. She smiled at him awkwardly. The rest of the board members walked into the conference room. They all sat at the table. Sarah noticed that as everyone came in, they bowed to Tariq. She was puzzled. She leaned into Amir and whispered in his ear, "Am I meant to bow to your brother too?" "Yes," Amir whispered back. "Oops," Sarah said to herself. Tariq must be thinking she is very disrespectful. She had been warned not to cross him, and already she was on his wrong side. She hoped that she wouldn't have to spend too much time with him. Everyone else seemed to pay a lot of respect to Tariq, the way they spoke to him, the way they listened. When he spoke, his voice was filled with authority, and his face was so stern. She could see why people were afraid of him, but she was not easy to scare. She was intrigued and planned to learn more about him. Something told her that they were not going to get along easily. Sarah took notes during the meeting in case Amir asked her something later. She had to be prepared. When the meeting ended, Sarah bumped into Adiva on her way back to the office. Adiva stopped her to ask her how the meeting went. Sarah sighed before answering. "The meeting was fine," Sarah said. "But?" Adiva was sensing that there was a but in that sentence. "But I think Sheikh Tariq is not so keen on me." "Oh dear, that is not good. I didn't realize I was meant to bow to him and Sheikh Amir." Sarah shrugged her shoulders. It was not her fault that she was not acquainted with their culture. Adiva closed her eyes and shook her head. "Perhaps I should teach you a few things. You really do not want to be on his bad side. Next time you greet him, you must bow and show respect." Sarah nodded and headed to her office. Perhaps she should have been taught these things in the beginning. She was lucky that Amir was not very formal. Later that week, Sarah had a working lunch with Amir. She organized her files before going to meet with him. She was starting to feel confident in her role. Amir had been teaching her about the business, and she caught on quickly. He had taken a chance on her, so she wanted to prove him right. When she called her parents and told them she was working for the Botros Oil Company, they were in shock. Her father was impressed with her. Her mother was worried. She knew how clumsy her daughter could be. She also did not like the idea that her youngest and only daughter was living in a different country all by herself. Sarah knocked on Amir's door. He called for her to come in. When she walked in, she was surprised to see Tariq sitting at the table with his brother. She immediately bowed and greeted them both. Amir was surprised and amused to see her bow. Tariq simply looked at her with an expressionless face and grunted. Amir looked at Tariq out of the corner of his eye and whispered, "Give her a chance." "Come, sit," Amir said. The lunch was already laid out on the table. The sight of it made Sarah's mouth water. If there was anything she loved most in the world, it was food. Food was second to none in her eyes. Living in a new country, Sarah was enjoying trying the different delicacies, and she had yet to try anything that she didn't like. She sat down across from Tariq. She put her files on the table and made herself comfortable, even though inside she was squirming. Eating with the two of them was going to be extremely awkward. Tariq leaned in and served himself. Amir was drinking and watching Sarah. He could see how uncomfortable she was. "Sarah, are you adjusting to the country okay?" Amir asked. He had to say something to make her ease up a bit. "I am," Sarah replied and smiled. "I think I will like it here," she added. Tariq chewed and watched her talk. He noticed that she was quite comfortable with Amir. She was not so formal with him. "You did not think you would?" Amir asked her. "I thought it would be really hard to start over in a new country, but it's proving to be a great experience and adventure." Sarah shoved a forkful of food in her mouth. "The food is great, too," she added and smiled. Amir laughed at her glee. It was obvious that the food worked magic on her. Tariq was still analyzing her. She did not eat slowly. Everything about her was neither graceful nor ladylike. "You studied engineering?" Tariq asked Sarah. "Yes, sir," she replied. Amir frowned slightly. He was wondering what his brother was up to. He silently hoped that he would not be mean to her. "What made you move here?" "I wanted the opportunity to be in an actual oil field, and the best oil companies are here in the Middle East." He did not reply to her as he stared at her blankly. He realized she was unaware of his importance. Otherwise, she would not speak to him in that manner. She would be more respectful and formal. She was simply enjoying her food and talking to him as if he were a regular boss. "Right, the matter at hand," Tariq said, changing the subject. He started talking about the new oil field they were prospecting. Amir was relieved that he changed the subject without saying anything mean to her. He had no tact. He would say whatever he needed to say. Sarah was also relieved when Tariq changed the subject. He made her nervous, but she was not going to let him see it. He was watching her with a blank look, and it made her wonder what he was thinking, but she told herself not to lose her cool in front of him. Chapter 4. Tariq was doing most of the talking. He knew about the field and explained some of the plans he had. Amir often chipped in. Sarah listened to them both talk. She could see how intelligent and knowledgeable they were. Both of them had studied engineering. That impressed her. They were from a rich and powerful family, but unlike most children from wealthy families, they actually went through university and thrived in the family business. From what Sarah could find out about them, Amir had been photographed with a number of different women at different nightclubs and restaurants. At only 28, he did seem to get around. However, there was nothing about Tariq. From what she read on the company website, he was 33 and was the chairman and CEO since their father retired 2 years ago. If he dated, he must be very secretive about it, or he was not into women. Sarah could see that he was very stiff. The word fun did not exist in his vocabulary. "How many barrels are you aiming to fill a week?" Sarah asked. "Good question," Amir said. "It all depends on the field. If it has a lot of oil, we will see after we drill," Tariq replied. His voice was very low and his face gave nothing away as usual. He did not expect Sarah to say anything, since she was really into her meal. She was not a messy eater, but she ate large portions quickly. It was not ladylike. The meeting finally ended. Sarah felt relieved. The atmosphere was intense around Tariq. He got up and buttoned his suit jacket. "I have other matters to attend to," Tariq said, and headed for the exit. "See you tomorrow, brother," Amir said, still sitting at the table. He turned his attention to Sarah. "You still okay there?" he asked her. "I'm fine, sir," she smiled. "You survived my brother." "And I will continue to do so in the future." Amir laughed. He admired her courage. She was not easy to scare off. Tariq's presence alone intimidated people. Sarah was 10 years younger than he was. Most women that much younger than him were far more scared of him than she was. Older women were interested in his bed, but he shut it down quickly. "You don't believe me?" Sarah asked Amir. "I believe you. It's contagious," he replied. "I do not think that he is scary," Sarah said as she was getting up from the table. She started gathering her files. Amir raised his eyebrows. She grinned at him. "Do you still need me for anything?" she asked. "No," he said, with an idea cooking in his head. Amir and Tariq, along with other employees, were going to the oil field the following day. He was now thinking of bringing Sarah with him. Usually he waited longer before taking his assistant to the field, but this time he was up to no good. He wanted Sarah in Tariq's company, since she said he was not scary. He already knew his older brother was not keen on her. Amir was intrigued to see how Sarah would handle herself. Sarah walked out of the office, clutching the files. She was feeling proud of herself for handling herself well during the lunch. Normally, something embarrassing would have happened to her. She was usually clumsy during meals. Her mother always complained about it. She had hoped her daughter would be a bit more ladylike, but after growing up with brothers and no sisters, of course she would turn out that way. For the rest of the day, Sarah worked through the pile of work that Amir had assigned to her. She worked through it as fast as she could. She did not want to appear incompetent in his eyes. She finished in time to go home. She locked up her office and left. As she got in the elevator, she greeted a diva who frowned at Sarah's backpack. It was not a good look for a woman to carry one. Tariq was sitting in the back of his black SUV on his way home when he saw Sarah walking along the road. He grimaced at the sight of her backpack. Everything about her was simply wrong. He wondered why Amir hired her. As she was walking, she tripped over her own foot and nearly fell. She straightened her skirt and carried on walking. She's rather peculiar, Tariq thought to himself. Amir opened Sarah's office door and grinned at her. She was sitting at her desk working. His abrupt presence shocked her. She looked up at him, and he spoke before she could. "You are to come with me," Amir said. "Where to?" Sarah asked hesitantly as she got up from her desk. "To the oil field." "Really? You do not believe me?" "The way you are smiling is worrying me," Sarah said as she walked around her desk. Amir was still grinning. "Don't be worried. I enjoy going to the oil field, that's all," he lied. He knew going to the fields with Sarah and Tariq was not a good idea, but it was going to be interesting. Part of him wanted Tariq to get to know her and understand why he hired her. The other part of him was accepting her challenge that Tariq did not scare her. He wanted to see how she would handle herself in his presence. A car was waiting for them outside. Sarah was glad that she had worn flats today. Otherwise, it would have been hard to walk in the field wearing high heels. The driver opened the door for Sarah. She thanked him and climbed into the car. The car was an 8-seater. She was sitting in the middle row. To her surprise, Tariq was sitting in the back. Amir got in and sat next to Tariq. "Good afternoon, sir," Sarah greeted Tariq. He, too, was not expecting to see her. He turned to look at Amir. "Brother," he said, and stared at him, waiting for an explanation. "She will be part of the project, so she might as well visit the oil field," Amir said. At this point, Sarah was feeling awkward and a bit annoyed because Tariq had completely ignored her. She turned and faced forwards as the car pulled away. Who does he think he is? Sarah asked herself. Yes, he was the Sheikh blah blah, but it did not give him the right to be so rude to her. Majnoon? Tariq spoke in Arabic, asking if Amir was crazy. Amir laughed softly. La la. No, no, he replied. The only thing Sarah understood was la. She was not good at Arabic. She found it hard to learn, so she only knew a couple of words. She had no doubt that they were speaking about her. She looked outside. She loved looking at the city. It was magnificent. She opened her window. She loved the feel of wind against her face. She so badly wanted to stick her fingers out the window, but that was not a good look. She still had to be professional. How old is she? Tariq asked Amir in Arabic. 23. Why? Amir replied in Arabic also. She looks as though she desires to stick her head out the window. Tariq stared at her. She was enjoying the breeze with her eyes shut. Amir turned and watched her. I think she's adorable, Amir said and smiled. He liked the fact that she was different from his past assistants. Every one of them was always in work mode and feared his family all the time. He changed assistants often because he wanted someone who was good at their work but was not so serious all the time. He wanted someone different, and he was starting to think that Sarah was the person he was looking for. There was never a dull moment around her. Her clumsiness amused him. She met her deadlines, and he liked her accent. Tariq frowned at the idea that his brother found her adorable. He could never understand his brother sometimes. Their characters were different. Tariq preferred to have his assistant respect him, hard-working, graceful, acted like a lady, and spoke Arabic. Sarah seemed to be the exact opposite. He decided not to let her bother him. He figured he would act as if she was not there and not acknowledge her at all. Chapter 5. The car rolled through a set of iron gates and parked. Sarah's legs ached from sitting in one position for what seemed like an endless journey. She quickly unbuttoned her seatbelt and opened the side door. Stepping out of the car with a wide grin on her face, Sarah wondered what an oil field actually looked like. Amir noticed it and smiled to himself. She was so cute, especially since she was almost half his height. He stood next to her. "You seem enthused." "That obvious, huh?" Amir laughed and suppressed the urge to ruffle her hair. "I was the opposite the first time I came to an oil field." Amir gestured for her to walk with him. Tariq was making a phone call. "You weren't interested?" "I was 16 at the time, and to me, oil was simply the family business. I was not interested in pursuing that career path." "But everything changed when you spent more time here?" "Precisely." Amir's tone was relaxed. Sarah appreciated the fact that he was so relaxed with her. He would speak informally to her, and it made her feel at ease. "Let's begin the inspection," Tariq said, as he approached them, arms folded across his chest. The statement was more of an order than a question. Sarah suppressed the urge to frown at him. Clearly, he was not fond of their chatter. "Yes, sir," Sarah replied with a smile. It was best for her to reply in a positive manner, since she could not say what she really wanted to say. Amir sighed and looked at his brother. Tariq did not return his glance. Instead, he started walking. They approached a man dressed in simple clothing. His sleeves were rolled up and his trousers were a bit dusty. Even though he was a little bit untidy, he was still an attractive man. He looked like he was in his early 30s. His skin was a dark caramel color. He bowed to Tariq and Amir as he greeted them both. They both seemed happy to see him. They immediately started speaking to him in Arabic. The man looked at Sarah. She smiled at him and put out her hand. "Sarah, Sheikh Amir's assistant." Sarah introduced herself and shook his hand. "Malik." "Nice to meet you, sir." "Likewise." "You will be meeting him a lot more in the future," Amir said to Sarah. Her eyes widened. She looked back at Malik. Tariq slid his hands into his pockets and began to tap his foot. "If you need anything in regards to the oil fields, let him know," Amir added. "Really? You're in charge of the company fields?" she asked him. A million questions immediately flooded her head. "Yes." Malik gave her a warm smile. "That's awesome. I always wanted to know how things work around here." "She is a talker," Tariq said in Arabic. Malik laughed softly. Sarah was confused. She had not understood anything, but she knew it was about her. "Have you already written her off?" Malik asked Tariq in Arabic. "You know what it is like," Amir replied. Sarah awkwardly scratched the back of her head. They were having a conversation in Arabic. It made her uncomfortable. She knew she should have learned Arabic, but it was hard to learn. It was not like Spanish. Spanish was easier. She looked into the distance and noticed a setup of an oil well. There were men working on the machines. Her eyes immediately went moon-sized. "Let's go look at the oil wells," Malik said when he saw Sarah's face light up. Tariq could see her out of the corner of his eye. He shook his head and did not say anything. "We are still setting up the machines. We're hoping to start drilling in a week," he added. "How long does it take to set up everything?" Sarah asked. "Couple of days," Malik replied. "We'll resume the question and answer session at a later date," Tariq interrupted. He could see that Sarah had more questions she wanted to ask, and indeed she did. She crossed her eyes when he interrupted for the second time. Amir buried his face in his hands and shook his head. His short-tempered brother was already irritated with Sarah. He looked up. He wanted to see how she was going to react to his obvious attempt at shutting her up. "I would like to familiarize myself with everything that goes on in an oil field," Sarah replied. She could only bite her tongue for so long. "Now is not the time," Tariq replied. "First time he responded to me," Sarah thought to herself. She did not understand why he acted like that towards her. She had not done anything to him, but she was not going to let him treat her that way. She was raised to treat everyone as equal, and she was not going to be disrespected simply because he didn't approve of her. "We should start the testing," Amir quickly said before Sarah could say anything else. "Good idea," Malik said. He knew what Tariq was like. He had grown up with the two of them, and he knew Tariq better than most. They walked closer to the wells. Malik signaled for one of the workers to do a test drill. Sarah was still a bit annoyed with Tariq, but she was more interested in watching the test drill. The man drilled a bit and stopped. Then he and Malik started checking for oil. Sarah could hardly stand still. She too wanted to check for oil, but she suspected that it would annoy Tariq further, so she stayed put. "There isn't much oil here," Malik said. "Try a different location," Tariq suggested. Sarah turned her attention to him. His appearance and personality matched. Good-looking men were usually full of crap. Their personalities weren't appealing. She hated to admit that he was attractive, but he really was. He stood about 6 feet 4 inches, easily a foot taller than she was. He was well built, muscle-wise. He had jet black hair and dark eyes. His skin was almond color. He had a straight nose and full lips. Sarah frowned and looked away. It would suit him better if he was a bit nicer. Amir resembled his brother, but he was much nicer and easier going, and he treated her more like a little sister than his assistant. They were very different. The silence between the three of them was tense. Sarah had no choice but to break it. She hated awkward silences. "I'm craving shawarma," Sarah said. It was the most random thing she had ever said around Amir, and he burst out laughing. Tariq narrowed his eyes. "Sarah, you make me laugh," Amir said, still laughing. Sarah laughed a little. She had no idea why she said it. Sometimes heavy silences became overwhelming, and she would say the first thing that popped into her head. "I have not indulged in some for quite some time," he added. "Me neither. Although iced tea would be more appropriate right now." "Iced tea sounds wonderful," Sarah said and turned to look at Amir. "There is oil here," Malik called out. Tariq immediately walked towards him. He was glad he spoke when he did. It was not pleasing to stand there listening to Sarah talking nonstop about food of all things. His brother even encouraged her to. Amir and Sarah followed. Malik showed them where he had found oil. He suggested that they start drilling as soon as everything was set up, but he was not optimistic about how much oil they would find. He showed them the rest of the oil field and shared his plans. Sarah asked a few questions here and there. She tried not to bombard him with too many. It was finally time to leave. Sarah was dreading the ride back to the office. She had to sit in the car with the two of them again. She sighed heavily before she got into the car. Tariq was not so pleased about it either. He even entertained the idea of giving her money to take a cab home, but he knew Amir would not have it. Chapter 6. Sarah was glad to arrive back at the office. It was already time to go home, so she bowed to them both and took her leave. As she was walking, she tripped over her own foot and stumbled. "Damn it," she cursed silently. She had a feeling they both saw her, and she did not dare check. She had already almost fallen in front of Amir, and he had to catch her. She really did not want to fall in front of Tariq. It would probably make his day. Amir smiled and suppressed the urge to laugh at her. Tariq put his hands in his pockets. This was the second time he had seen her trip over her own foot. Tariq turned on his heel and walked towards his car. He was pleased that the day was finally over. That girl was too strange. Everything about her irritated him. She was not suited to be an assistant for any member of the Botros family. Tariq stopped and called out to Amir. "Brother, take me up on my offer to hire you an impeccable assistant." "What is wrong with the one I currently have?" Amir said as he approached Tariq. "She's like that." Tariq was not quite sure how to describe her. There was so much wrong with her, but no words escaped his mouth. "You have not even given her a chance yet. She falls below standards. Mine or yours? You should raise yours. She is competent, intelligent, and adorable. There is nothing adorable about her. Give her time." Amir smiled, but Tariq did not return his smile. "You know me well. Do you really think she will grow on me?" Amir did not respond. He knew that Sarah was never going to grow on Tariq. He was very stiff and uptight. Amir could not help but want to keep Sarah more because his brother did not approve. The fact that Sarah was willing to stand her ground earlier showed that she did not scare easily. She was the only non-family member that dared to stand up to him. He was willing to see how far she would go. Sarah was happy that it was the weekend. She really needed a break from work. She decided to go to lunch with her neighbors, Kira and Kalina. She had been lucky to get on with them, otherwise it would have been lonely for her. Kira and Kalina were 24-year-old non-identical twins. They were fond of Sarah since the first day they met her. The twins knocked on Sarah's door when they were ready to leave. Sarah slipped into her plimsolls and opened the door. She hugged the twins. She was glad to see them. Finally, she could have a non-work day. Amir worked her hard every day, and she still wasn't used to such a heavy workload. She went from dealing with very important matters regarding the company to dealing with what Amir eats for lunch. It was a lot for her. Living so close to the town center meant that the shopping mall was an easy 10-minute walk. They immediately went to buy cold drinks as it was very hot outside, and Sarah was still not used to the weather. Kira and Kalina bought their drinks and waited for Sarah by the entrance. Sarah bought herself a large drink and stuck her straw inside immediately. "He is so attractive," Kalina said. Sarah approached them and stood between them. "Who's the eye candy?" Sarah asked. "Him," Kira pointed. Sarah nearly choked on her drink when she realized who they were talking about. "You okay?" Kalina asked Sarah. "Are you kidding me? You think he is attractive? Him? Sarah was finding it hard to believe. Tariq Botros is the perfect man, Kalina said. Sarah frowned even more. Kiera agreed with her sister. He is a jerk, Sarah said and drank her cold drink. She quickly touched her forehead. Brain freeze, she said. Oh, yeah, you work for his company, Kiera said and turned to face Sarah. You're so lucky you get to see him all the time, Kalina said. Sarah could not help but roll her eyes. She looked up at him. He was wearing a white polo shirt and beige trousers. For once, he was not in a suit. He was looking down at his phone. She wondered what he was doing at the mall. She noticed women eyeing him as they walked past. A woman tried to speak to him, and he did not respond to her. Ha, typical, Sarah said. It was like him to be so rude. Let's go. Our reservation is for 1:10 and that's 5 minutes away, Sarah added. Oh, no, Kiera complained. She wanted to stay and watch Tariq some more. Sarah linked her arm and pulled her along. Sarah wanted to enjoy her weekend. As they walked past, Tariq looked up. Sarah was facing forward. She was hoping to walk past him without making eye contact. Tariq creased his brows when he recognized Sarah. He noticed that she was wearing shorts. How could she easily parade her bare legs? Tariq thought to himself. There was not one thing that was ladylike or graceful about her. He's looking at you, Kalina whispered to Sarah. I am not going to greet him if that's what he thinks. Let's walk faster, Sarah whispered back. She did not want to have an awkward conversation with him. It would not even be a conversation. It would be her greeting him and him ignoring her like he always did. She finally reached the safety of the restaurant and sighed with relief when she sat down. Kiera and Kalina joined her. They were still talking about Tariq's good looks. Amir is very appealing too, Kiera said. He's much nicer, Sarah replied. That's who you work for, right? Kalina asked and leaned forward in her seat. What's he like? Kiera asked with a big smile on her face. Sarah laughed. The twins were too into the Botros family, but it did not seem like it was only them. The whole town was going crazy at the sight of Tariq. Sarah started talking about Amir and what it was like working for him. A waitress approached them and took their orders. Sarah was excited to eat. The food on the menu seemed tasty and she was starving. Suddenly, Kiera nudged her and tilted her head to the side. Sarah was confused. Huh? Sarah said. Kiera's eyes widened and then moved to the right. Sarah raised one eyebrow. She was not understanding her at all. Before she could say anything, she turned when she heard the waitress say, Here's your menu, Mr. Botros. Please call me when you're ready to order. She giggled a little as she spoke. Sarah made eye contact with Tariq when she turned. It was too late for her to look away and act as if she didn't see him. She got up and walked to his table, which was next to hers. She had such bad luck. He was sitting with a much older but very beautiful woman who was elegantly dressed. Good afternoon, Sheikh, Sarah said and bowed to him. She turned her attention to the woman and smiled. Good afternoon, ma'am, Sarah said. The woman returned her smile. Good afternoon, dear, the woman said. Tariq had not even bothered to respond to Sarah. He simply stared at her with an expressionless face. Sarah hated that look so much, especially when she was waiting for a response. Something I can do for you? Tariq asked her when he realized she was not leaving. Sarah frowned at him. Since we are sitting at neighboring tables, I thought I would say hello, Sarah replied. Obviously, that was a bad choice, she mumbled. The older woman laughed. My apologies, dear. My grandson lacks tact, the woman said. Sarah's jaw dropped open. "Grandson?" she spat out. The woman raised her eyebrows. "I'm sorry for that." Sarah quickly apologized. She realized that she had just shouted. "It's just you look so young. I would never think you were his grandmother, ever," she added. Tariq's grandmother laughed and extended her hand. "Fida, what's your name, dear?" She introduced herself. "Sarah." Sarah smiled and shook her hand. "You're still here?" Tariq asked Sarah. "I am Amir's assistant," Sarah said to Fida and deliberately ignored Tariq. "Oh, you're his new assistant. Marvelous. I wanted to meet his new assistant. Seems his past assistants weren't quite what he or the company was looking for. I assure you things are different this time." "I hope so." Tariq wanted to remove Sarah physically from their vicinity. She talked too much. His eyes dropped to her small waist. He noticed that her waist was smaller than her chest and hips. Unwillingly, his eyes dropped to her back. She had a round bottom. "Leaving anytime soon?" Tariq asked and quickly looked away from her bottom. "It was nice to meet you, Lady Fida. I hope we can have a proper conversation one day. Have a nice day," Sarah said and bowed to her. She looked at Tariq and bowed to him. She managed to suppress her words. "Likewise, dear," Fida said to Sarah. Chapter 7. "She's adorable," Fida said to Tariq as Sarah walked away. He was watching her walk with his usual blank face. He turned to look at Fida. "Amir keeps saying that. I do not see it," Tariq said and picked up his menu. Fida laughed. "This is you we are talking about." He lowered his menu and narrowed his gaze at her. "I am not the problem here," he defended himself. The waitress reappeared to take their orders. She was watching him and blushing whilst he was speaking to her. Fida watched the waitress turn red. "When do you plan to marry?" Fida asked Tariq as soon as the waitress left. Tariq frowned at his grandmother. What brought this on? He was confused with her sudden change of topic, even though it was not the first time she had questioned him about marriage. "The waitress was blushing when she was speaking with you, but you did not even notice. Makes me wonder if you notice women." Tariq sighed before he replied. He was so used to women blushing in his presence that it did not even faze him anymore. The waitress came back carrying their drinks. Tariq sunk in his chair and watched her. She noticed him looking at her and she immediately started smiling. He raised one eyebrow. He waited for her to leave before he commented. "Marriage is not for me, and even if it were, she would not be my type," he said and took a sip from his glass. Fida shook her head. For years she had been trying to convince him to marry, but failed. "So what, you will bury yourself in the company until your deathbed?" "I like my job." "Too much. You need a life outside your job. You need a family." "I have one." "Of your own. I want great-grandchildren. Do not deny me that." Tariq was never going to win this argument. Fida was tenacious. This was not the first time discussing his love life and was certainly not going to be their last. "How about you pick a wife for me?" Tariq said and grinned at her. "Does that even make sense? Is it so hard to court a woman?" Tariq laughed gently. Sarah heard Tariq laugh. "So it's capable of laughing," she said to herself. She turned her attention back to her food. It surprised her to hear him laugh. She had never heard it and never thought she would. He was so uptight and mean. "Can you see me courting a woman?" Tariq asked Fida. "There is no hope for you," she replied. He grinned at her. Don't you want love? She asked. No. What? It doesn't exist. Tariq was determined to stick to his beliefs. In his eyes, love did not exist. It was simply heightened infatuation. As he took a sip from his glass, he noticed Sarah attempt to eat an olive, but it fell back on the plate. No table manners even. She could not walk like a normal person. She talked too much. She had poor dress sense. And now this. What other weird trait was she going to exhibit? He watched her eat. He could tell that she was really enjoying her food. She sat up and licked her lips, then took a sip of her drink. When she was not eating, she was talking. It's as if she never stops. Tariq shook his head and looked away from her. Sarah was finally done with her delicious lunch. Food made her happy. As they were leaving, she made sure not to make eye contact with Tariq. It was not the case for Kira and Kalina. They both stared at Tariq as they walked past. Tariq chewed slowly and watched them watching him. Please stop staring at him, Sarah said, feeling awkward. He's so handsome, Kira said. There was a lot of work that needed to be done to get the new field up and running. Sarah's workload tripled faster than she anticipated. Amir told her that they had to pull some long nights. Sarah walked into his office to brief him on a report she had been working on. To her surprise, Tariq and Amir were both sitting on the sofa discussing the appropriate barrels to use. They both looked up when she walked in. It was the first time she had seen him since that Saturday at the mall. She bowed to them. Only Amir responded. Barrels for gasoline or crude oil? Sarah asked. They both looked at her and she realized that she had jumped into their conversation. Both, Amir replied. She pointed at one of the pictures and said, Those carry more oil. Amir turned his attention to the picture and picked it up. Tariq was still wondering why she had to include herself in the conversation. Is that so? Amir asked her. Sarah smiled and nodded. Oh, I actually came in to brief you on this report, she said as she handed him a file. She made eye contact with Tariq. He wore an expressionless look as always, which annoyed her. She could never guess what he was thinking. She looked away first, as she was getting uncomfortable in his presence. An estimation of 400 gallons of crude oil can be produced in the El Sultari region, Sarah said. That is not a lot of oil, Amir said. Tariq leaned back in his chair. He was wondering where Sarah was taking this. Did she have a point, or was she rambling again? True, but it's worth looking into. You never know. Actually, we do know. We have been doing this for years, Tariq interrupted. I meant that it's worth learning more about this field. It might prove to be a good investment. Or it might be a fruitless endeavor and we would have wasted a lot of time and resources, shot back Tariq. Amir lifted his head from the file and looked at the both of them. They were both making good points, but there was nothing friendly about their conversation. He knew that his brother and his assistant would never get along. He simply hoped it wouldn't get much worse. Sarah, if you can find more information about the field, then we'll go from there, Amir told her. Do not give her false hope, Tariq said. Sarah bit the inside of her lip. She wanted to hurl curse words at him, but she would not do that. Why did he find it so difficult to be nice to her? Sheikh Amir, that is fair, thank you. Sarah bowed to him and left the room. Tariq narrowed his gaze. She deliberately thanked Amir so she could make it obvious that she was ignoring him, just as she had done at the mall when Fida was there. He watched her walk out of the office. His eyes could not help but rest on her bottom as he contemplated what she looked like without her clothes on. He looked away before Amir caught him. He wouldn't know how to explain it. He started talking about his lunch with Fida. Amir laughed. He knew his brother's views on love. The world had failed to convince him otherwise. A diva walked in with a tray of refreshments. She placed it on the table and asked if they needed anything else. Amir told her that he did not want anything. Tariq did not offer a response. He simply grunted instead. Sarah returned to her office and started researching El Sultari. She wanted to prove Tariq wrong. There was potential, and it was worth checking it out. Tariq probably shut down the idea because it came from her. She really wanted to prove him wrong. She wanted to visit the field, but she knew she could not do that herself. Amir would authorize it, but would not let her go alone. She smiled at the thought of Malik. He was the perfect person to go with her. After all, he was in charge of the oil fields. Chapter 8. It was finally Friday, the last day of the work week and the last late work night. Sarah was happy. She was not used to working such late nights, and it was exhausting. She could not wait to get the work over and done with so that she could start her weekend, kick back, and relax. She had worked with Amir every night and laughed at how tired she got. He kept saying that she was too cute. Sarah never understood how she was cute, but it didn't bother her. That Friday, Amir had a mysterious appointment he needed to go to. Sarah manned his appointments, and she was unaware of this one. "Sir, you're being too secretive," Sarah said to Amir. He laughed and ruffled her hair. "I am not," he said. "Then why do I not know about this appointment? And why aren't I coming along?" "You're working late," Amir replied as he kept inching towards the door. Sarah placed her hands on her hips and stared at him. "A date?" Sarah asked him. "I shall see you on Monday." Amir smiled mischievously. Sarah laughed and bid him farewell. She knew that he was going on a date. He seemed to be quite the ladies' man. She was going to grill him about it on Monday. She took the file she needed from his desk and locked the door before she headed back to her office. After what seemed like hours and hours of work, Sarah decided to walk around the building. She needed to stretch and relax for a bit. The place was deserted. The only people who were there were the security guards. Even a diva was not working late. Sarah frowned. She wished that she were home or out with the twins. Sarah dragged her feet as she walked around the building. She didn't even care what she looked like. Nobody was there to see her. She was wearing a black, knee-length pencil skirt and a white camisole that was not tucked in. Her hair was not tied up, and her long, curly hair rested on her back. She had taken her heels off. She turned a corner and saw the light on in a conference room. She growled silently. Who had not bothered to switch the light off? She dragged her feet and headed towards the conference room to switch the light off. She walked into the room and towards the light switch. She was in her own world, looking at the ground. "Can I help you with something?" A deep voice sounded from behind her. It startled her as she squealed and turned around quickly. "Oh, gosh," she sighed with relief. It was Tariq leaning on the table reading some paperwork. He was wearing gray pants and a white shirt. A couple of buttons were unbuttoned, revealing the top of his chest. "You scared me," she scolded. "Do you need something?" Tariq asked her. Sarah shrugged. She didn't really expect him to be polite to her. "I saw the light on and I came to switch it off because I thought no one was in here," Sarah replied. Tariq was analyzing her. She looked untidy and she was barefoot. "Why are you barefoot?" He could not help himself. He had to ask her. "I was wearing heels all day. My feet hurt." Sarah's tone was not friendly. She was trying her best not to snap at him. He did not respond to her. He studied her silently. working late?" Sarah asked. She caught his gaze and felt uncomfortable. She slowly inched for the door. He didn't respond to her as he felt she was asking an obvious question. Sarah placed her hands on her hips. "Why is it you can never answer me or even act polite towards me?" Sarah asked him. She couldn't ignore it anymore. He always felt the need to be that way towards her, and she had not done anything to him. On top of that, she was tired and had enough of his attitude towards her. Tariq raised his eyebrows as he regarded her. He was not expecting her to question him, nor did she have the right to. "I am not obligated to do either," he said. His voice was now deeper. "I never did anything to offend you." She has full lips, Tariq thought to himself. He had never noticed them before. It did not matter anyway, he thought. "Your persona is offensive," he said to her. "Excuse me? Who walks around barefoot?" Sarah frowned. "You're the one with the ugly persona," she told herself. She looked away. She was in the middle of arguing with him and his chest was distracting her. From the little glimpse she got, she could tell that he was very toned. The bulk of his muscles were always showing in the clothes he wore. And how was it he had time to work out when he was always working? "You do not act like a lady should," Tariq added. "I am good at my job and that's all you should be concerned about," Sarah shot back. "For England, perhaps, but this is Saudi Arabia and you work for the Botros." "Because you're so freaking special," Sarah mumbled under her breath as she headed for the door. If she stayed in there any longer, she would say things that she would regret. She liked Amir and respected him enough not to disrespect his brother. She got the shock of her life when Tariq grabbed her arm and pulled her back. "What did you say?" he demanded. He had pulled her close to him and she was now standing inches from him. She was shocked at how he pulled her so easily as if she weighed nothing. "Being a little more polite and less judgmental to others will not harm you," Sarah said. She was not going to let him intimidate her. She was going to stand her ground. His gaze had grown darker and more intense. He stared at her and she stared back. She was not going to look away first. "You think you can speak to me any way you wish to?" "Unhand me." "If I don't?" "Exactly. What will I do if he does not let go of me?" "Try it and find out." An empty threat. There was nothing she could do. He called her bluff. He did not let go. Instead, he pulled her even closer to him. Sarah landed between his legs and her hands landed on his chest. His face was now inches away from hers. Wow, he smells good. Why is it she hadn't noticed his cologne before? It was intoxicating on him. "Time to make good on your threat," he said to her. "Please let go," she whispered. She knew that she needed to get out of there. Something unexpected was happening and she wasn't prepared. Tariq let go of her arm, but Sarah didn't move. She felt paralyzed. She so badly wanted to flee from the room, but her legs failed her. Tariq wrapped one arm around her waist and pulled her closer to him. Her whole body was now flush against his. Both her palms rested on his rock-hard chest. He planted a kiss on her lips. It took her by surprise. He gently kissed her, and she did not stop him. Her mind went blank. She could not think about anything. As she gasped, he gently pushed his tongue into her mouth and deepened the kiss. Sarah wrapped her arms around his neck and kissed him back. His hands stroked her back. He broke the kiss. Sarah was breathing hard and still had her eyes closed. "What are you doing?" she whispered. "What are you?" He asked the question back. He pressed a feather-light kiss on her neck.
Sorry, readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
As Tariq backed up, he pulled up his pants. You should get home. It's late. As he reached for his shirt, he couldn't resist adding, and don't forget what I said about shaving your pubic hair. It isn't appropriate. As he turned back around, Sarah was already gone. When he looked down at the table, he saw blood. Realizing that Sarah was a virgin, he swore under his breath and went to go find her, but she had already left the building. As Sarah ran from the room, she hastily put her top and skirt on. When she reached her office, she grabbed her bag and threw the rest of her clothes in there before turning out the light and rushing to the exit. Even after all of that, he found reason to criticize her. He could be such a jerk, Sarah fumed to herself. Well, she'd show him. She could be as callous as he could and would simply pretend that he didn't exist, except for when they had to work together. Sarah, you are an idiot, she scolded herself. Chapter 9. Sarah asked Fida many questions about the Center for Girls and Young Women on their way there. She really liked what the center was about and was impressed with Fida for starting it. Sarah had taken part in charity events and fundraising at home, but this was the first time she got to meet some of the recipients. Fida was enjoying Sarah's company. Much like Amir, she thought Sarah was adorable and full of energy. She made her laugh, and she liked that she spoke her mind. It was refreshing. The driver opened the door for them when they arrived. There were some girls playing outside. As soon as they saw Fida, they ran up to hug her. Fida was also happy to see them as she called each girl by name. Sarah was amazed at how happy they were to see her. Even the older girls, when they found out she was there, came out to greet her. Sarah could not help but wonder if Tariq was adopted. He was nothing like Amir or their grandmother. Fida introduced the girls to Sarah, who greeted them with a big smile on her face. Fida knew Sarah would be a good fit. She was very sweet. Charity work would suit her fine. Sarah and Fida spent the day at the center. Fida liked to come from time to time to check on the girls' progress and find out if they needed anything. She watched Sarah easily bond with the girls, and the girls liked her instantly. "You're good with them," Fida said to Sarah. "I've always wanted a sister," Sarah replied and sat down with Fida, who was feeding a 3-year-old. "Do you have any siblings?" "3 older brothers." Fida smiled. "I had only 1 son. I'd have loved to have had more," she said. "Tariq and Amir's father?" Fida nodded. "Speaking of which, how are things at the company?" she asked. Sarah sighed before she answered. "Getting along with Sheikh Amir was easy. He was instantly nice to me. He gave me a chance that most people in his position wouldn't. So I do my best. I don't want him to regret his decision." "Amir was always a sweetheart and a flirt. He is very easy to deal with." Fida picked up a napkin and wiped the little girl's mouth. "And Tariq?" she asked. "Unpredictable and impolite. He definitely was unpredictable. Who would have thought he'd go from insulting Sarah to making love to her and then insult her immediately after?" Fida laughed at Sarah's answer. "If you get to know him, you can predict his actions. He is one way, his views do not change. It is Amir who is more unpredictable. He was the one always up to no good or caught in a rather displeasing situation." "Really?" Sarah raised her eyebrows. "Tariq was always too mature for his age. He studied all the time, he practiced swordsmanship, he got into the oil business at the age of 12. 12? Sarah was shocked. That was too young. Fida nodded. But why is he like that? I mean, he's so mean and judgmental. To others, yes, but he's very loving to those close to him, and he is very protective. Sarah was finding that hard to believe. Tariq did not have a loving side. Okay, granted, he did things to her insides that had her melting, but that was a one-time thing, and she had no intention of being alone with him again. Ever. Sarah had managed to avoid Tariq for a few weeks. Between the amount of work Amir gave her, plus the side project on El Sultare, she kept herself busy and hidden away in her office. Today, she had a meeting with Malik, who had agreed to meet with her to discuss El Sultare. She sat with him and presented her findings based on the research she had compiled. He was impressed with her. She was very knowledgeable, and he could see her determination to find out if there was oil. She gave him a file of paperwork concerning the field. She had everything from the size of the field to what kind of barrels they could use. She had made sure that she had covered everything possible. The only thing that was left was actually visiting the site. Malik agreed to visit the field with her at some point, so long as Amir approved. When they walked out of the office, Sarah saw Amir and Tariq speaking with a diva. She quickly walked past reception, hoping he would be too busy to see her. She got out of the building as fast as she could. She slowed down when she got outside. The coast was clear. Before she could sigh with relief, she felt someone grab her arm. She froze. There was only one person in that place who would grab her arm. "You are avoiding me." She recognized the deep, authoritative, and sexy voice. It was Tariq. "I am not," Sarah replied. "Then turn around." Sarah frowned before she put on a normal face and turned around to face him. She gave him a "what do you want" expression. "You were a virgin." Tariq went straight to the point. He did not like beating around the bush, nor did he like people who did. Sarah's eyes widened. She did not think he knew. She had not told him. "How?" The words refused to come out. "It doesn't matter. The point is, why didn't you tell me?" He stared at her. The eye contact was too intense for her, and she had to look away. This was not a conversation she was prepared to have. While she had told herself that she would simply pretend that it never happened, her subconscious felt otherwise, and she found him in her dreams. "Why would I?" "Sarah, are you serious right now?" he asked her with a raised voice. He took a deep breath before continuing. "Something like that." He paused. "That's not something you take lightly. Why would you let me deflower you?" This time he spoke calmly. Sarah was surprised that even a bastard like him could cherish such a sacred thing. "It's not like I was worried about it in the moment," she said as she shrugged, pretending indifference. "Besides, it doesn't matter now." "It does matter." "It's my problem, not yours. So leave it. Have a good day, sir." Sarah bowed to him and stormed off. There was no reason for them to be discussing her virginity. It was not going to change anything now. Tariq put his hands in his pockets and watched her walk away. She should have told him. If she had, he would not have pursued her like that. But there was nothing either one of them could do about it now. She did not seem bothered, so he was not going to be bothered by it either. He sighed as he returned to the office. She was a handful. He needed to stop thinking about her, the shape of her hips, the fullness of her breasts, how they fit perfectly in his hand. He really wanted to kick his brother for hiring her. Of all of the candidates, he had chosen her. "Sarah, what's up, girl?" Amir greeted Sarah. She looked up from her desk. Her jaw dropped and she raised an eyebrow. She had never heard Amir speaking like that. "What's going on?" Sarah asked him. "Just saying hello and goodbye." Sarah frowned. He was getting more and more peculiar by the second. Fida's words came back to her. He was unpredictable. "Another date?" Sarah asked. "Another? There was never one to begin with." He denied, but his face looked guilty. "Okay then, just acting like this?" Sarah replied as she crossed her arms over her chest. Amir laughed. "Okay, it's a date." Every time he had tried to get away without saying where he was going, Sarah had sniffed him out. He decided to come clean. "Aw, stop it." Sarah grinned at him and wiggled her eyebrows. "Why so secretive?" she asked him. He had a small smile on his face. "She's different from the others." "Ah, you really like her?" Sarah had a big smile on her face. Amir narrowed his gaze. "Not like that. I mean her background. Bye, Sarah." Amir turned on his heel to leave. Sarah got up from her desk and called after him. "Have fun at El Sultari," he said and quickly dashed out. Just when they were getting to the interesting part of the story, he bailed. This made Sarah more curious about this mysterious person, but that would have to wait. Sarah gathered all the stuff she would need and headed out, locking the door behind her. She was going to meet Malik at El Sultari. Malik had taken her research seriously, and Amir had given the go-ahead on visiting the field. She was excited about the inspection. Chapter 10. Sarah rubbed her belly as she got in the car. They hadn't even left yet, and she was feeling carsick. She got in the back of the car and opened the window for some fresh air. She wondered if it was maybe something she ate. She finally reached El Sultari. She got out of the car and walked over to greet Malik. They immediately toured the field. Sarah made sure to get everything she needed. She took notes and photos. She had to be right about this one. She was not going to give Tariq the satisfaction of being right, not after their last interaction. He would also use it as an excuse to prove her incompetence simply because he did not like her. Malik helped Sarah with everything she needed. She was so pleased that he had agreed to come along with her and that Amir had allowed the entire thing. Although she loved being out in the oil field, she was happy when they were done. She was not feeling her best. Whatever was wrong with her wasn't getting any better, and she was ready to go home. That Friday, for the first time, Sarah was happy to see Tariq in Amir's office. She had gone to see Amir to tell him about El Sultari, but it was a bonus for her when she found Tariq in there. She greeted them both. "Here," she said as she handed Amir a file containing photos and her research. She immediately started talking about the inspection. She did not leave any details out. "Are you reaching a point?" Tariq asked. He hated how much she spoke. She never ran out of words. She narrowed her eyes at him. "Malik and I concluded that the field might have oil," Sarah replied. "Might," Tariq emphasized. "Even if you do not want to take my word, do take Malik's." "She has a point. I agreed to look into it further provided her research proved sound," Amir said. "La," Tariq said. Amir looked at him and asked why. They both started speaking in Arabic. Sarah quietly excused herself. She had gotten what she wanted. She was right and Tariq was wrong. Amir had backed her up. What could have been better? She frowned when she walked past a diva. Her perfume was a bit off. It made her stomach turn. "That isn't your usual perfume, is it?" Sarah asked a diva. "No, I am trying out a new one," a diva replied with a smile on her face. Sarah nodded and walked off. The smell was killing her. Later, Amir called her into his office. He informed her that he was leaving early because he had to have dinner with his family. So Sarah was free to go for the day. She had been feeling under the weather, so she was happy to leave early. "You have not been yourself these past few days," Amir said to her. "I'm fine, don't worry about me," Sarah replied. "Tell me about this girl you're dating." She changed the subject. She still wanted to know more. Amir shrugged his shoulders. She was like a dog with a bone. She never gave up. "Well, she is someone I grew up knowing, but I never looked at her that way," Amir said as he buttoned his suit jacket. "How old is she?" All this interrogation. 25? Amir frowned at her and headed for the door. 26? Sarah carried on guessing ages. 25, he finally said. "Only 3 years younger than you. Nice." Sarah smiled. "Goodbye," Amir said. He stopped walking and turned back to her. "Fida is coming by for lunch tomorrow. Be sure to join us." Sarah agreed to join them. She loved Fida's company. They instantly got along. It was as if they had known each other for years. She packed up and locked his office, then hers, before heading home. She went straight to bed as soon as she got home. Rest was very much needed. Kira and Kalina wanted to come over, but she was too tired and unwell to entertain guests. The next day, Sarah felt much better. She finished most of her work in time to have lunch with Fida and Amir. Their lunch was set up outside the building in a garden area that housed a few tables. She greeted Fida as soon as she saw her. Fida was happy to see Sarah. She greeted Amir and then sat down. She heard voices behind her. She turned and saw Malik and Tariq coming to join them. Sarah screamed inside. The last thing she wanted was to sit and have lunch with Tariq. Tariq greeted Fida before he sat down. He wasn't expecting Sarah to be there. He wanted to ask why she was there, but he knew that everyone would come to her aid. They all seemed to like her for some odd reason. Malik greeted Fida as well before he sat down. Fida asked how things were going. Sarah immediately brought up El Sultari. She really wanted to rub it in Tariq's face. He ignored her and carried on eating. He wasn't going to show her that he was bothered by it. "You look different today," Fida said to Sarah. "Do I?" Fida stared at Sarah for a moment before she continued. "You have a certain glow," she said. "Probably the coconut oil I use," Sarah said and smiled. Fida shook her head. She was not convinced. She brushed it off and started talking about something else. Sarah dropped a piece of chicken on the plate as she was trying to put the food in her mouth. Her eyes raced to see if anyone had seen her. Only Tariq saw her. He was staring at her with a blank face. Damn it! He had to see, Sarah thought. Of all the people, it had to be he who saw her. One of the caterers brought out a tray of food and placed it on the table. Sarah was unfamiliar with the food, and the smell made her stomach turn. She put her fork down and touched her belly. "Are you well, dear?" Fida asked her. "She has been under the weather for the past few days," Amir said. Sarah quickly put her hand over her mouth and ran from the table. She went into the building and threw up in a planter. She had felt a hand patting her on the back. "It's all right, dear." A soothing voice spoke. She recognized Fida. She handed Sarah some water and a napkin after she was done throwing up. Sarah rinsed her mouth and wiped it. "How far along are you?" Fida asked Sarah. Sarah frowned in confusion. "Far where?" Sarah questioned. She was confused. Fida realized that Sarah did not know. She called for her driver. Taking Sarah's hand, she put her in the car as she gave instructions to her driver in Arabic. On the ride there, Sarah kept assuring her that she was okay, and perhaps it was something she ate. She had been far too adventuresome with some of the restaurants she'd been choosing. She didn't think it was necessary to go to a doctor. Fida waited with Sarah after her tests had been taken. Sarah hated going to the doctor. She wanted to leave and be called with the results, but Fida insisted that they wait. Fida already knew what was going on with Sarah. The doctor called them into the office. "Would you like Lady Botros to be here for your results?" The doctor asked Sarah. "Yeah, it's fine. It's probably something I ate, right?" Sarah asked. The doctor shook his head and smiled. "Congratulations. You are going to have a baby," the doctor said. Sarah's jaw dropped open. Fida held her hand and smiled. "No, that's not possible. I can't be pregnant," Sarah cried, shaking her head. "It's good news, isn't it, dear?" Fida asked. Sarah laughed nervously. There was no way she was pregnant. It didn't make sense. "I can't be." Sarah stood up and shook her head. "I'm only 23 and not married," she added, starting to panic. "It's still a blessing," Fida said. "It is, yes. I have always wanted to be a mother and planned to be, someday, when I was married." "It's okay, dear. I'm sure the father will be overjoyed." Sarah froze. Damn it, Tariq. What will he think? "Sarah, won't the father be joyful?" Fida turned to look at the doctor. "Please excuse us," she said to him. He nodded and immediately left the room. Sarah looked at Fida in panic. Her hands started shaking. "It'll be fine," Sarah said. "It has to be." She touched her belly. A smile appeared on her face. She couldn't believe that she was going to be a mother. Fida got up and hugged her. "If you need anything, I am here for you," Fida said. Sarah wanted to tell her who the father was, but words failed her. She was not even sure how she was going to tell Tariq himself. Chapter 11. Fida arrived late for the family dinner. She had spent the past week making sure Sarah was okay. She knew Sarah was panicked about the pregnancy, so she went to her apartment every day to make sure she was okay. She brought Sarah a few things to help with the morning sickness and the dizziness. She also told Amir that Sarah would not be in to work that week. She needed time to adjust. Fida greeted everyone as she sat down. "How come you pay so much attention to Sarah?" Amir asked when she told them why she was late. "She is a lovely girl. I like her," Fida replied. "Why?" Tariq asked with a frown on his face as if there was a bad smell. "Who is Sarah?" Aliyah, Tariq and Amir's cousin, asked. She had moved in with them after her parents died and had been raised like a younger sister. "My assistant," Amir replied as he rubbed her head. He was always play-fighting with her. "Do you like this one?" Mrs. Botros asked. She knew her son was always changing assistants as if he were changing socks. "I do. She is very competent, intelligent, and very funny," Amir replied. "So Tariq is the only one who loathes her," Aliyah said. "As usual," Amir said. "But why have you been looking after her?" Sheikh Botros, their father, asked Fida. "Poor girl," Fida said and sighed. She took a sip of her wine. "Why, is something wrong?" Amir asked. "I knew I should have gone to see her. She's been unwell last week," he added. His face was now creased with worry. "She is with child. Don't tell her I told," Fida said. But before she could finish, Tariq dropped his fork and cut her off. "She's what?" Tariq roared as everyone turned to look at him. "Sarah is pregnant?" Amir questioned. He was shocked. Fida nodded. Tariq wiped his mouth with his napkin before tossing it down. He got up and immediately stalked to the exit without saying another word. "What is wrong with him?" Aaliyah asked. "That was rather peculiar," Mrs. Botros commented. Sarah jumped when she heard loud banging on the door. She pressed the monitor by the door to see who it was. Her jaw dropped open when she saw it was Tariq. What was he doing here? She wanted to ignore him, but he kept banging loudly. Kalina opened the door to find out what the commotion was all about. "Sheikh Tariq?" Kalina asked. She was shocked to see him there. "Is she home?" Tariq asked Kalina. He recognized her from the restaurant. "Yes, she is." Sarah rolled her eyes. She didn't want him to know that she was home and hoped he'd stop knocking and go away. Now that Kalina had told him, she had to open the door. She looked at him with irritation. He walked into her apartment before she could say anything. Kalina grinned at Sarah. "I'll talk to you later," Sarah said to Kalina and shut the door. She looked at Tariq. "Why are you here?" she asked. "When were you going to tell me?" he challenged, raising his voice. He sounded angry. "Tell you what?" Sarah was confused. "Don't play with me, Sarah." Sarah frowned even more. She was too tired and sick to be dealing with him. "You are carrying my child," he said, staring at her belly. "How do you know?" "That's not the point. Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you want it if I did?" she shouted. "Do you think I'd kill my own child?" he shouted back at her. He was so angry. His hands were shaking. He turned and punched the wall. Sarah was shocked, her eyes wide. "Well, you loathe the mother. Why would I think you would care about our firstborn?" Sarah asked as her voice cracked. She was not going to cry. She was not going to cry, she chanted to herself. "How I feel about you." Tariq stopped. "This situation," rubbing his head. "That doesn't mean I do not want my child," he finally managed to say. He walked to her and grabbed her hand. She tried to pull free, but it was pointless. He was much stronger than she was, and determined. Looking around, he tightened his grip on her hand. "You will not stay here in this dump. You are coming with me," he said, and headed for the door, pulling her with him. Grinding to a halt, Sarah looked at him angrily. "Who do you think you are?" "The father of our unborn baby. There is no use fighting me. You will not win." "At least let me get my things," she said. She saw the look of anger and determination on his face. She knew she had to give in, for now. Someone will come back for them. He did not trust her. She would refuse to leave. He picked her up and put her over his shoulder. She started hitting his back and shouting for him to put her down. He opened the door to leave. Kira and Kalina jumped. They had their ears to the door, trying to eavesdrop. He looked down at them angrily. "Pack up all her stuff. Someone will come by later to pick it up," Tariq ordered before he strode to the elevator. The twins looked at each other in disbelief and confusion. How was Sarah pregnant with his child? When had this happened, and why was he carrying her over his shoulder? They walked into her apartment and quickly packed her belongings. Later that evening, a sophisticated tall woman came to collect Sarah's things. She said that she was one of Tariq's assistants. Kira and Kalina tried asking her what was going on, but she refused to say anything. Sarah paced up and down in her new bedroom. When they arrived at Tariq's home, she was reluctant to get out of her car, so he carried her upstairs and deposited her in this bedroom, telling her that it was her room until she gave birth. She tried arguing with him about it. She did not want to live with him, but he was very clear on the matter. It was his child. She was to stay there whether she liked it or not. He did not want to speak about it anymore. Sarah looked around the room. It was large. There was a king-size bed with pillars on each corner. The floor was marble, like the entire house. There was a 50-inch flat-screen TV. The walk-in closet was the size of her entire apartment, and the balcony had breathtaking views of the city. The adjoining bathroom was beautifully decorated with a soaking tub the size of a hot tub. While the room was beautiful, it didn't change the fact that she was here against her will. Mostly. How was it that the one person who detested her the most was now her baby's daddy? She sighed and threw herself on the bed. Chapter 12. Sarah dragged her feet as she went downstairs early the next morning. She was wearing shorts and a vest. She felt unbearably hungry. She walked up to the huge fridge, opened it, and stared inside. She didn't know what to eat. "Looking for something?" She heard Tariq's voice. She turned quickly. He was sitting at the table, reading a newspaper. "Figures that you're one of those men who reads newspapers in the morning," Sarah said as she turned her attention back to the fridge. She pulled out eggs and some veggies. Tariq was sitting there watching her. "There is someone who can cook for you," Tariq said. "It's too much hassle. I'm hungry now." She searched every cabinet until she found cooking oil and a pan. She made herself a mushroom omelet. Tariq watched her the entire time. She took the pan and placed it on the placemat across from him before sitting down. Tariq frowned when he realized that she was going to eat straight from the pan. "There are plates, you know," he said. "That will take too long," she said. She used her fork to cut the omelet and then shoved it in her mouth. She looked at Tariq, who was frowning at her. "It's your fault for bringing me here, so you're going to have to deal with my habits," she said and carried on eating. After the third bite, she ran from the room. Tariq followed her and waited outside the toilet. He knocked on the door. "Are you all right?" he asked. "No," she called out. A wave of panic washed over Tariq as he stormed in. Sarah was hunched over the toilet. "I'm hungry and I love eggs, but I can't eat them," Sarah sniffled. Tariq narrowed his eyes. "I thought something was wrong," he said as he held her hair back. Sarah was shocked that he was there for her like that. She would have never pegged him for a caring guy. Then she remembered that it was all for his child. It had nothing to do with her. She got up and rinsed her mouth. She wiped her face with a towel. "I'm fine," she said to Tariq and left the bathroom. As she headed towards her room, he grabbed her arm. "Are you fine?" he asked. His eyes watered. "I'm just hungry," she said. Tariq's eyes widened. He was shocked that she was emotional about food. He knew she loved food, but not this much. "So you want to cry about it?" "It's the hormones," Sarah said and stormed off to her bedroom. A few moments later, Tariq came to her bedroom with a tray of food. Sarah's face immediately brightened up. She accepted the tray with glee. Tariq shook his head. It was going to be a long 9 months. "I am going to speak to Amir," Tariq said. "About what?" Sarah spat out. She knew he was going to find out soon anyway, but she was not ready for him to know. "You're not working." "Me? What now?" This was worse. Sarah loved her job. "Did you think you were going to continue working?" Sarah placed the tray on the table. A wave of rage washed over her. Who was he to stop her from working? He had been mean to her since the moment he met her, and she was done. She stood on the bed and tried to slap him, but Tariq caught her hand. "You're so controlling," she shouted at him. "And you are so stubborn. Listen to me." Sarah puffed up her cheeks. She was so mad at him. She loved her job. She couldn't believe how lucky she was to get it, and she was not giving it up. Tariq wanted to laugh at her little tantrum, but at the same time, she needed to be disciplined. She was too unladylike and stubborn. In one move, he picked her up and slammed her on the bed. She screamed as she landed. Before she could roll off, he had her hands above her head as he loomed over her. Sarah tried to kick him, but he pinned her legs down. As Sarah squirmed, Tariq made a strangled noise as he tightened his grip on her wrists. "Stop that," he said through clenched teeth. "What are you doing?" she asked as she glared at him. He didn't answer her, but continued to stare down at her. Sarah became aware of his arousal as he slowly began grinding against her. Dipping his head down, he kissed her. As Sarah moaned, he released her, and she immediately wrapped her legs around him as her hands came around his neck. Tariq was surprised at her sudden shift. One minute she was taking a swing at him, and the next she was kissing him back. She was an unpredictable tigress. Sensing his confusion, she said the only thing she could think of. "Hormones," she mumbled as she nibbled on his chin. Tariq chuckled. "I think it's going to be a very long 9 months," he crooned as he licked her ear. "Well, you asked for it. Now keep doing what you were doing," Sarah demanded. Quickly removing her vest, Tariq looked down at her. His grandmother was right. She was glowing and her breasts were blossoming. Smacking his lips, he grinned as he cupped her breasts. They were beautiful before, but now... He flicked both nipples with his thumbs as she gasped and arched against him. He rolled to her side so he could look at them better. They were definitely bigger. As he continued to play with her nipples, Sarah began to pant. "I don't know why, but they've become so sensitive. I swear even wearing a bra turns me on." At her confession, Tariq groaned before he leaned over to lick one. Sarah continued to squirm as she reached for his head. Sliding his free hand down her body, his fingers brushed over her mound. He paused when he realized that something was different. Sarah grumbled, "Why did you stop?" Tariq reached for her waistband and pulled her shorts down. A slow smile crept across his face as he confirmed that she had indeed shaved. He leaned down to kiss the top of her mound. "You shaved," he said as he nibbled the inside of her legs. "Now, there you go, stating the obvious." Sarah managed to respond as she was busy trying to coax his mouth closer. Suddenly, Tariq reached under one hip and lifted her toward him. Inhaling her scent, he smiled. She still smelled of strawberries. Positioning her so he could watch her face, he rubbed the inside of her legs and along her groin as he watched her pupils grow.
Sorry, readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
As she lay back, exhausted, he rose up above her as he watched her face. She expected him to take her, but instead he kissed her nose before getting out of bed. Grabbing a blanket, he covered her. "Get some rest," he told her before he left the room, closing the door behind him. Sarah lay back, stunned. She was fairly sure he had just dismissed her, but she was still feeling too good to think clearly. Tariq walked into Amir's office later that morning to find his brother sitting with Malik. Amir was picking up the phone. He pressed a number. "Adiva, get me Sarah's number, please," he said. "I need to speak to you about that, actually," Tariq said to Amir and pulled out a chair to sit down. "I know you don't like her, but I want to check on her. Make sure she is okay and find out when she will be back to work." Tariq sighed heavily before he said anything. "She will not be back," he said. Amir put the phone down slowly, looking at his brother. Malik was lost. "What's going on? What's wrong with Sarah?" Malik asked, feeling both concerned and confused. He had actually come to speak with her about El Sultari. There was oil found there, and he wanted her to be the first to know. "She is..." Before Tariq could finish speaking, Sarah walked into the office and cut him off. "Morning, Sheikh Amir. I'm sorry that I'm late, but I'm here now," she said and bowed to him. "What are you doing here?" Tariq questioned her. "Coming to work," Sarah replied. "Are you well enough to?" Amir asked. Malik sat looking at each of them. He was so confused. "No, she isn't," Tariq replied. "I am fine." Sarah spoke through clenched teeth. He was really getting on her nerves. "She is pregnant, not disabled," Amir said. "Exactly," Sarah said. "You're pregnant?" Malik asked. He was shocked. "Yes, with my child," Tariq roared. "What?" Amir and Malik spat out at the same time. They were both shocked with the news. No one had seen that coming. Sarah turned on her heel and walked out. Tariq did not even bother to explain the situation to them. He went after Sarah. She had gone to her office. He opened the door and slammed it behind him. They both started arguing. He wanted her to stay home, but she did not want to. "Is it going to be like this when the baby is born?" Sarah shouted and threw herself on the sofa. "I will not let you make all the decisions regarding this baby. My baby," she added. "It was my seed. I have as much right as you do." "Exactly. It's equal, so stop making it one way. Besides, it is I who has to suffer for the next 9 months, not you." Tariq walked out. There was no reasoning with her. She was determined to work. He was going to let her have this 1 month, but next month he was removing her from work, whether she liked it or not. Later that day, Amir walked into Sarah's office. He pulled out a chair and joined her at the desk. For a moment, he did not say anything. He simply looked at her. She knew why he was studying her like that. She sighed and leaned back in her chair. "It happened during the week we worked late. The night of your date, to be exact," Sarah said. "How?" Amir was confused. He could not understand how his brother and his assistant got into that situation. The two of them had hated each other, and now they were having a baby. "I don't know. 1 minute we were arguing, and the next, that happened." She covered her face with her hands. Amir burst out laughing. "That is crazy. You two loathe each other, and now you will raise a baby together?" He started laughing again. "It's not funny. It's terrible. He is mean and controlling. Do you know what he did yesterday?" "What?" "He came to my apartment and literally removed me from it and took me to his. Actually threw me over his shoulder when I refused to go. Now he's making me live with him for the health and safety of the baby, he says." Amir could not help but laugh. He liked having her around, standing up to Tariq and arguing with him. It was all such great amusement watching as this girl completely vexed his brother. But now she was going to be the mother of his brother's firstborn child. A knock sounded at the door. It was an unfamiliar girl. Sarah raised her eyebrows. "You must be Sarah," the girl said. She looked to be about 20 years old. "Why are you here?" Amir asked her. "I'm Aaliyah," she said to Sarah, ignoring Amir. Sarah looked at Amir, hoping he would tell her what was going on. "I heard that you're carrying my cousin's child," she added. "Cousin?" Amir smacked his forehead with his right hand. "News travels fast," Aaliyah said. Aaliyah accompanied Sarah back home to Tariq's house. She told Sarah that her reason for coming was that she wanted to meet Sarah. She was excited to become an aunt. Tariq had refused to tell her about Sarah, so she came to see for herself. Aaliyah asked Sarah every single question she could come up with. The day got even weirder for Sarah when she walked into Tariq's living room to find Fida sitting with a younger woman. Both women were surprised to see Sarah. "Hello, Lady Fida," Sarah said awkwardly. "Sarah, how is it that you are here?" Fida asked her. Chapter 13. Fida was finding it hard to process that Sarah was pregnant with Tariq's child. The other woman, who had introduced herself as Tariq's mother, was even more shocked. Her eldest son, the one who did not want to marry, had impregnated his brother's assistant, and now she was living with him? It was too much to take in. Aaliyah was lingering in the background. She did not know what to do or if she should do anything at all. "Opportunist!" Tariq's mother shouted and rose from her chair in fury. Sarah's jaw dropped open. "I assure you it is nothing of the sort," Sarah replied. "How can Amir's assistant be sleeping with the chairman?" With all due respect, there was no sleeping. It was one night, one mistake. It was not intentional. Sarah ground out through clenched teeth. She was tired of explaining herself. Fida knew that Sarah was not like that, but she was surprised at the fury of her daughter-in-law. Before Fida could salvage the situation, Tariq stormed in. He touched Sarah's lower back and asked for her to leave the room. He looked furious. "Tell your mother that I did not target you. Tell her how much I dislike you," Sarah said to him as she trembled with emotion. "Dislike? Who do you think you are?" Mrs. Botros shouted at her. "Sarah, please go to your room. I'll handle it," Tariq said to her softly. Even though he looked furious, Sarah was surprised to see a glimpse of caring in his eyes. She nodded and left the room. Tariq looked at Aaliyah to leave the room as well, and she quickly followed Sarah. "Mother, please quell your anger," Tariq said as he walked towards her. "How can I, when you impregnated that slattern and now she will birth your firstborn child?" His mother burst into tears. "I understand how you feel, and I apologize. However, she did not seek me out. It simply happened in a moment of passion." "She is a lovely girl," Fida interjected. "She is intelligent, sweet, caring, fun. One thing she isn't is an opportunist. She disliked Tariq. That is very much true," Fida said calmly. She turned to face Tariq. "And I am having a hard time understanding how you laid with her," she said. He couldn't give her a response. It had happened. He did not plan it, nor did she. He managed to convince his mother to leave and calm herself down. He kissed her on both cheeks before she left. Fida left with her. Sarah went to Tariq's room after Aaliyah had left. She knocked on the door before walking in. Tariq was sitting at his desk. She walked over to him and hugged him, catching him by surprise. "What are you doing?" he asked her. She let go and sat on the desk in front of him. "It's called a hug," she said sarcastically. "I wanted to thank you for stepping in with your mother earlier. I never thought you were kind. I thought you'd feed me to the lions if you could," she added. Tariq narrowed his gaze. "Is there a point to you being here?" he asked her. Even though his words were impolite, his voice had dropped and had that sexy tone. Sarah hated to admit how much it turned her on. "How will we raise a child when your mother dislikes me already?" she asked him. "She will come around. Do not worry about her." "I'm tired," she told him. "This place is huge. It's a freaking maze and I keep getting lost. Tariq cut her off before she could finish. "You talk too much," he said and picked her up. He carried her across the house to her room. Sarah was not expecting it, but it felt good to be carried. She snuggled up against his chest. He laid her on the bed as she grinned at him and stepped back. "Thanks," she called out after him, but he was already shutting the door behind him. After several weeks, Sarah and Tariq eventually got into a pattern living together. He made sure that she had everything she needed and they stayed out of each other's way. Sarah agreed only to work on El Sultare since she was responsible for it even being recognized. They had actually found high-quality oil. There wasn't a lot of oil, but the oil they had found was going to be very profitable. Tariq agreed to let her work on it and nothing else. Amir came to see Sarah often. He complained to her that she was his best assistant, and now he had to find another. Fida came to see Sarah and look after her every other day. She went with Sarah to all her appointments and checkups. She had to be there for Sarah, especially since the baby was a Botros, and Tariq's mother had not given her blessing yet. His father had agreed to stay out of the whole matter, although Fida knew that he was overjoyed to be a grandfather. Kira and Kalina had come over to see Sarah a few times. Tariq would shake his head when he saw them sitting together, squashed on one sofa, giggling. He did not mind them coming over because they kept Sarah out of his way and made her happy. He wouldn't admit that he liked seeing her happy, but he did, and he did not understand why. One night, Tariq was working in his room when Sarah walked in. He looked up from his desk. She was wearing an oversized, loose-fitting t-shirt. She stood next to him, staring at him. He put the files he was working on down and turned his attention to her. "I can't sleep," she said. "What does that have to do with me?" he asked. "Everything. Go take a walk, swim, or something," he told her as he reached for a file. "I can't sleep because She mumbled the rest. Tariq frowned because he could not make out the rest of what she was saying. "Sarah, what?" "I have work to do." She rolled her eyes, but it had to be done. She sat on his lap and held his face close to hers. He raised his eyebrows. "I feel charged, hormones, I don't know, but I can't stop thinking about you. I can't even get you out of my head when I'm asleep. You're always there." Tariq smiled once he understood what she was saying. He picked her up and carried her over to his bed. She had wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face against it. "Why is it you can make me feel so small?" she asked as she sighed. "Because you are small." He removed her t-shirt and tossed it to the floor. He trailed kisses from her inner thighs all the way to her collarbone. She moaned at every kiss. It made him smile at how much she was enjoying everything he did. He was thankful for those hormones. Sliding off the bed, she watched him as he made short work of his clothes before joining her back on the bed. Lying beside her, he traced his fingers along her body. He didn't think it was possible that she could become any more beautiful. Her breasts had grown considerably, and what she called her baby bump was becoming more pronounced. He still couldn't believe that his child was growing inside her. Cupping the side of her face, he smiled at her before he bent to kiss her.
Sorry, readers, here's where we fade to black due to YouTube explicit content guidelines. If you dream for the steam, you'll need to take a look in the book.
Tariq woke the next morning to find Sarah sleeping next to him. The memories of last night's earth-shattering lovemaking rushed back. He had never seen her so hungry for him before. He groaned quietly. She was sleeping so soundly next to him. He studied her. She had a cute nose that he enjoyed kissing. Her mocha-colored skin was beyond perfection. He wondered why it had taken him so long to appreciate how beautiful she was. "Roses," Sarah said. "What?" Tariq answered. "Me, no, like..." She was not making sense. "You do not like roses?" "Food," she said and smiled. Tariq laughed when he realized that she was talking in her sleep. That was the only thing he found adorable about her. Besides her nose, beautiful skin color, luscious lips, firm bottom, her soft and supple breasts. Tariq jumped out of bed. He could not believe that he was making a list of all the things he liked about her. He went to shower the thoughts away. Sarah got up when she heard the water run and headed to the kitchen to make breakfast for them both. When Tariq came to the kitchen, he was shocked to see her cooking for him. "Don't look too happy," she said as she set his plate down and walked out of the kitchen. She smiled when he could not see her. "It's probably poisoned," he called out after her. He sat down and smiled at the food. Sarah ended up getting into the habit of cooking for him. She never told him, but she liked cooking for him. He didn't try to stop her from cooking for him either, as he enjoyed the attention and the food. She would feed him both in the dining room and in the bedroom. Her excuse was hormones, but he knew she liked him making love to her. "Sarah, you have to be careful," Tariq scolded her as he caught her. They were on their way to find out the baby's sex when she tripped. "I know," Sarah said. She was too clumsy, and so many times Tariq had to catch her to keep her from tumbling to the ground. He held her hand the rest of the way to the clinic. Fida was waiting for them out in front when she saw them holding hands. She smiled to herself. Even though her grandson was too oblivious, he had found the woman for him. As soon as the doctor told them that the baby was a girl, Tariq and Sarah started arguing over baby names. They could not make simple decisions together. Tariq stared down at her. Her head barely reached his chest, but he stood tall. He watched her getting angry and heated up, and couldn't resist smiling on the inside while he did his best to keep his face expressionless. He did not understand himself or her. She was so stubborn, but he loved arguing with her. In the end, Fida suggested a name that they both agreed on, Layla. Chapter 14. Tariq was sitting at his desk, staring at a little box. Every decision he had ever made in his life, he had been sure of it. He never second-guessed himself. He was always right, but this decision was different. It made him nervous. He sighed, rubbing his face. Sarah burst into his bedroom and walked over to Tariq. She was breathless. "What is the matter?" he asked, and immediately got up. Before Sarah could say anything, she saw the little box. She gasped and placed her hand on her chest. Her eyes widened. "That's huge. Who for?" she asked. "Are you all right?" Tariq asked, ignoring the question. Sarah picked up the little box. She stared at the ring. The ring had diamonds all around the platinum band, and there was a huge diamond in the center. Sarah looked up at Tariq. He nervously looked around the room. Sarah dropped her jaw. "For me?" she asked. Tariq slipped his hands in his pockets and nodded. He had no idea what he was meant to do. He had never been in such a situation. He never thought he would ever be in such a situation. Sarah was speechless. Sarah never expected him to ask for her hand in marriage. Yes, they had been getting along better since they were living together. They argued constantly, but it was never anything major, and they always resolved their differences with lovemaking. He looked after her and gave her everything she needed. She cooked for him. She looked after him when he worked late. But marriage? She never saw this coming. "You want to marry me?" Sarah emphasized the you and me. She needed him to be clear. "Yes," he said. "Why?" "Because you're mine." Sarah looked up from the ring to look at him. Had he just said what she heard? She was his? He really was not making sense. "Huh?" "I will not let the mother of my baby marry another man." Sarah narrowed her eyes. "So, you're being possessive right now?" "Yes, I am. I deflowered you. I gave you your first child. You're giving me my first child." Tariq groaned with frustration. He was not very good at being romantic. He was not even sure how he felt about her. He didn't know how to describe it. "I don't want another man touching you." "Tariq, you're not making sense. You want to marry me because you don't want another man touching me?" She gave him half a smile. He was already possessive and jealous. "I want you by my side, Sarah. I need you." He looked down. Speaking like that was too uncomfortable and unfamiliar for him. Sarah put the ring in his palm. He looked up at her. She gave him her left hand. He smiled and put the ring on her finger. She laughed. "You're awful with words." He laughed with her and kissed her. Sarah broke the kiss when she felt a sharp pain in her womb. She winced in pain. "I had actually come in here to tell you that my water broke," she said. A wave of shock washed over him. He picked her up and carried her to the car, shouting orders to the driver. By the time they reached the hospital, Sarah was screaming in pain. The nurses quickly brought her into a private room on the maternity ward. Sarah was frustrated and angry. The doctor had come in to check on her and told her that she needed to dilate a few more centimeters before they could deliver. Tariq held her in his arms. He felt useless. He did not know how to help her. She kept screaming in pain and swearing. "My baby," a woman said as she walked into the room along with Fida. "Mum?" Sarah was surprised to see her. Telling her mother that she was pregnant was very hard for her. She had planned to send a text or send baby pictures, but Tariq had convinced her to call her. For an hour, her mum was shouting at her on the phone for getting pregnant before marriage. She gradually accepted it, and Tariq. "It'll be okay," Sarah's mum said and gestured for Tariq to move. Fida sat on the bed too and held Sarah's hand. She noticed the ring. "Took you long enough," Fida said. Tariq rubbed his head awkwardly. She was happy that her stubborn grandson had finally taken that step and gave in to love. Sarah could not deliver normally, so they had to rush her into surgery. Tariq kept pacing up and down. He was so worried. Fida tried to calm him down, but it was pointless. "I don't want to lose her," Tariq said. "You won't," Fida replied calmly. He sat down and put his head in his hands. The doctor came out. Tariq rose to his feet and walked up to the doctor. There were some complications, but the delivery was successful. Both mother and daughter are fine. Sarah is a fighter, the doctor said. "I know, she fights me on everything," Tariq said. They waited in her room for her to wake up. The doctor had tried to make them wait outside, but they all refused. Tariq sat at her bedside, holding her hand. Sarah opened her eyes and smiled at him. "Don't you ever scare me like that again," Tariq said. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered hoarsely. Everyone gathered around her bed. The nurse walked in with the baby and gave her to Tariq. His face immediately brightened up. Layla was so beautiful, like her mother. She was so tiny and delicate. Sarah saw a very soft side of him when he first held their daughter. That was something she never thought she'd see. He handed Sarah the baby. "Hi, Layla," Sarah said, smiling at the baby. Everyone was gushing over how cute she was. To their surprise, Tariq's mother took Sarah's hand and smiled. She had finally accepted her and the baby. "Who'd have thought that Tariq would fall in love?" Amir commented. Tariq rolled his eyes. Everyone laughed at him. He had made it so clear that he'd never fall in love, that he was not interested in marriage, and yet here he was. "With Sarah as well," Malik added. "They were always arguing," Amir said and laughed. He had seen them argue so much. She was the only one who stood her ground with him. "I can't wait for the wedding," Aliyah said. Fida was holding Layla and smiling at her when Tariq's father reached out to touch her. He was surprised when the tiny baby gripped his finger. "You better treat my daughter right," Sarah's mother said to Tariq. "Yes, ma'am," he replied. "Otherwise," she showed him her fist. "Definitely," Amir teased. Tariq held Sarah's hand and kissed her on the cheek. "I love you," he whispered to her. This has been The Sheikh's Accidental Pregnancy, the Botros Brothers series, Book 1, written by Leslie North, narrated by Tanya Stevens,